Well, hello, friends. I'm Tim Braheem, and welcome to the 360 Experience podcast with this episode with Carl White. I just wanted to jump on the opportunity to have a conversation with Carl, especially in today's market where marketing is such an important topic and one that Carl White excels at. He's been passionate about it for more than a couple of decades in the mortgage business. He is the host of the Loan Officer Freedom podcast. He is the CEO of Mortgage Marketing Animals, and he is a successful branch manager for a major mortgage company and has been doing this, as I said, for more than a couple of decades. This conversation with Carl and I is assured to be full of value, and I really want to focus on the topic of marketing, and in particular, database management and marketing to real estate agents in today's market. Before I bring Carl onto the show, I'd like to please remind you of how important it is to the show that you subscribe in whatever channel you're watching this on. So if you're on YouTube or Google Podcasts or Apple or Spotify, please make sure you subscribe. And if you like the show, we'd really appreciate your likes in YouTube. We'd love your comments. I mean, these are the types of things that really get us elevated in our notoriety, and as a result, allow for me to bring other valuable guests into this platform to help educate you and bring value to you. It's really my pleasure to be able to do this show for you. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Carl White. Hey, Carl. It's good to see you, man. Thanks for being on my show.
It's good to be here, Tim. It's an honor, brother. It's kind of like, I think I said it to you last time we was talking. I feel like I'm talking to Frank Sinatra or something. Not that you're that old, but
I certainly don't have that good of a voice. I'll tell you that.
Well, we haven't heard you sing just yet,
so and you're not going to hear me sing.
We're not going to hear you sing.
No, that ain't going to happen.
Well, we'll keep that on the bucket list.
That's a good way to start. Well, I mean, first of all, actually, I want to dive into something that we're going to get a little personal right out of the gate. How's the vegetarian diet doing? The last time I talked to you, you told me that you and your wife had just started and she was doing a lot of cooking. How's that going?
It's going really well. So my wife has always, since the day we met, and obviously her whole life, I would guess, is just an absolute picture of health. And so she's I think, other than being pregnant 3 times, she's probably a steady 110 pounds pretty much, her whole life. She looks and our wedding was 6 years ago. And she looks almost like we have a wedding picture up in our living room. And it's embarrassing to me how much she looks like her now. And we're just not sure who that strange man is standing beside her. But yeah, it's going really well. We watched this thing on Netflix, and it just talked about the power of vegetarians. So, and there's all kinds of aspects to that. It's like, some people, it's a living creature, right? And I get that. For us, it was watching this special on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it, but they did a study with some of the players of the Miami Dolphins, and they were looking at their performance, and their performance increased drastically on this vegetarian diet, where no cheese, no milk, no dairy, like a pure vegetarian diet. And I have to tell you now, so we're probably about, not that long, like 6 weeks into it, and we committed for at least a year. So we're about 6 weeks into it, and man, I feel better. I go for a morning bicycle ride. I go 20 miles Monday through Thursday, and then I do 40 Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 40 each on each one of those days. And my time is shortened. It might be all mental, but whatever it is, it's going well.
Well, what a lot of people don't realize is the amount of energy that's required to digest food. I mean, it's second only to the brain, which requires a lot of energy for thinking. And if you reduce the requirements of the body to have to work so hard to digest food, then you actually have a surplus of energy for other things. So I'm not at all surprised that your time has come down in your bike riding. How's your sleep been? Has that changed at all?
It's a funny thing, Tim. I find as the years goes on, I need less and less sleep. And so I go to bed when I'm tired. I wake up I get up when I wake up, so I don't live by an alarm. I mean, if I'm traveling and I'm speaking at an event or something, I'll always set it to be on the safe side. But pretty much, I go to bed at 9 o'clock, and pretty much I wake up between 3 and say 4:30. So I run about a 6.5 hour, 6 hour, 6.5 hour, and so I've always I never had a trouble sleeping. So my sleeping hasn't increased. So no, I haven't a long answer to your short question. I haven't noticed any difference with the sleep whatsoever. So I sleep very, very well. And when I wake up, I'm well rested. Just not I used to sleep about 8 hours, and now sometimes 5, 6 hours, something like that. And I'm good to go.
So back to the diet for a second. You described something that sounded more like vegan than vegetarian. You said no cheese, no dairy. So no eggs, nothing like that?
No eggs,
So
no nothing.
so it's then vegan, not vegetarian, correct?
Yeah, so and I don't know the difference between the two, to be honest with you, but it's 100% plant-based diet.
Got it. So
If it
vegan.
doesn't grow in the ground,
Yeah.
we don't eat it, we don't drink it.
So you're eating probably a lot of legumes, a lot of beans, lentils, things like that to get your protein.
That's exactly right. Yeah, a lot of legumes for sure, and which I love.
Yeah.
And and I'm blessed that I've got a it's really cool. So I've got a we call her a house manager, but I have a housekeeper that comes Monday through Friday, and she's from Brazil, and she's very versed, as we found out just recently, on making vegetarian dishes. And even better, though, if I don't know if you've ever had Brazilian food, it's got a little bit of a um, pop to it, right? It's a
Hmm.
little spicy. They
Hmm.
cook with a lot of spices, not just heat, but a lot of spices. And so I have to admit that that's made it considerably easier,
Mm.
when somebody else is, not all the time, but most of the time, doing it for us.
Oh yeah.
That it and especially doing it in a way. So I was born here in the South, in a very, very, very small, very rural town here in the Central Florida, and so we grew up on collards and
Hmm.
good old Southern food. And so having it with that Brazilian pop, though, makes it a total new experience. And it is, man, it's going really well.
That's one of the things that's, I think, really difficult for a lot of people to do a cleanse or, a significant change in diet to eating clean or eating, even going vegan like you, is that it essentially eliminates in many ways the ability to eat out. I mean, you can still find meals out for sure. You can go out and have a salad or have some soup, but left to the restaurant's devices, I mean, it's in many cases not going to be, the greatest meal, and you can only do that so much. So then you have to then take on the task of preparing a lot of your own meals. So to have somebody, if nothing else, just do the prep work for you is hugely beneficial from a time management perspective, because it takes a lot of time to prep food. You got to go to the grocery store a lot, and all those types of things. But boy, I'll tell you, the results can be tremendous. Anything about mental acuity that's changed for you? Like, do you feel like you're sharper in any way?
Without question. I'd say, especially about as we're recording this today, it's 3 o'clock my time. And especially as it gets closer to the afternoon, you have to keep in mind I've been up for like 11 hours already,
Hmm.
right? So I get up really, really super early, just naturally. And so it used to be about 3 o'clock or so my time. I'm starting to like really slow down, get a little fuzzy, not as clear thinking. And I've noticed that that doesn't happen. So my mind stays clear. I would say up until about not that it fogs, but around 7 o'clock or so, I can feel my mind starting to shut down. Like I can tell you, in the past, we had scheduled this again 3 o'clock my time to start. I would have, I would have honestly, I would have 2 months ago, I'd have called you up, say, hey man, we got to do it sooner. At 3 o'clock, I'm toast, right? And so I've noticed that my mental acuity, it's not better in the beginning of my day, because it's always been, I thought, pretty sharp, but it definitely, the I don't know, let's call it the bell-shaped curve, has definitely broadened out, where I feel sharper for a longer period of time during the day. No question.
Do you drink coffee or any kind of caffeine when you first wake up?
No, I used to, but I haven't. I went off caffeine probably about 3 years ago, and I go to strictly. I drink a lot of teas, but they're not decaf. They're just non caffeinated teas, like a lot
Hmm.
of Roy Boss and and other teas
Hmm.
that are either extremely low. Like I'll drink green tea, which is has some caffeine but not much. But no, I went off of caffeine, which which was boy that was not an easy detox. It was a
Mm-mm.
short detox, but it was not an easy one for sure. Severe headaches, a little bit
Hmm.
of irritability, but it lasted maybe 3 4 days, and then totally fine. I've detoxed off of other things that took much longer
Yeah,
than
that
that.
and sugar are the tough ones for me. Whenever I do like a cleanse or something, those are the ones that are painful for a few days. But then once you get on the other side of it, it's pretty glorious.
Yeah.
What's your morning routine look like? I mean, you're up at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. You got plenty of space and quiet time to execute on, I'm sure, a lot of things. What's that look like for you?
My morning is strictly chill up until about 9 o'clock. So I get up, let's say the average morning, let's say 4. And so I'll get up. We've got two little hairless cats, which is a whole nother story. So yeah, we got these little Sphinx. So the first half hour, I'll get up, I'll come downstairs, feed them. And then usually by about, say, 5 a.m., I'll get on my bicycle. And we've got a marvelous thing here. It's called the Pinellas Trail, where it's one of those, it used to be a train track and they converted over to a bicycle track. And if I head south, it goes about 30 miles. If I head north, it goes about at least 100 miles, maybe like 120 miles. So I've got like a 150-mile, like one way. If so they tell me, right? I haven't been all 150 miles, but so they tell me. And so I do my bicycle ride and start about 5 o'clock and hit that little trail. So there's no cars. There's other bicyclists, believe it or not, but I don't have to worry about getting hit by a car or anything like that. So I got some lights just so other bikers. And you'd be amazed on how many people's out there. Starting at like 6 o'clock or so. Fair amount is out there, and I see the same people pretty much every morning. Some of them we've waved to each other for the last 3 years. Literally every morning, have no clue what their name is. We've never stopped and said hello. Which I thought about that the other day. I said, one of these days I'm gonna make a point to stop and at least just say, hey, we passed each other for the last 3 years. My name's Carl. What's yours?
Yeah,
So anyway, so I do my bicycle ride. Some mornings is 20, some is 25. Again, I said on the Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I do 40. And so I finish that. Takes me about, I don't know, hour and a half, maybe something like that to do
it's
the
awesome.
20s. I'm on a little beach kind of cruiser. So I started I got a road bike, but the problem is I'd get it done faster than what I wanted. And so I got something with thicker tires, so it's just a little harder to pedal. So it takes me a little longer. And on that, I listen to a lot of podcasts. Um, listen to something like I'll listen to something spiritual for a little bit, then I'll listen to something positive for a little bit, and then I'll listen to something educational for a little bit. And get home. Me and the lovely wife sit on the front porch. We'll have our morning tea. We sit out there overlooking the dock, hold hands, have our morning tea. We'll do that for probably, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes, something like that. And I'll go around we've got a little lake here on the property. So I'll go out and feed the birds, feed the fish, and come back in, take my shower for the day. At 8:55, I sit down in my chair and I start work promptly at like 8:50, like right at 9 o'clock in the morning.
What a beautiful intentionality behind your morning. I mean, I think so many people end up kind of, going straight from waking up into rushing into life and
Mm.
then are caught up with a incredibly busy mind and then get wiped out by the latter half of the day, like you described, and then come home and find it incredibly difficult to be present, incredibly difficult to make time for a workout, incredibly difficult to do anything for their own personal growth and well-being. And they just go right back at it again the next day. And what I like that you've done is you've reverse engineered the process and you've said, I'm going to make these important things like holding my wife's hand and having a cup of tea in the morning or feeding my cats that you clearly particularly have an affinity for. I could just feel it in the way that you described it. And you know, taking in your spiritual and you're getting your exercise in, you're putting that first and then orchestrating a day after that. And it would strike me that you probably have a lot less guilt that way too, right? Like, I mean, you don't feel like you know, you didn't make deposits into your own personal health bank account and
Mm.
your own your marital bank account and these types of things. You made that your first choice, which is really awesome.
Well, what I found is as time has gone on, time is a wonderful thing. It's a great teacher if we listen, right? And I trust me, I've gone through periods of my life where I didn't listen. But if we listen, time is a wonderful teacher. And I've learned that for me, the experiences are far, far surpass things. And that I can the time I spend with my lovely bride in the morning or enjoying my bike ride in the morning, I enjoy that way more than the next model up of, I don't know, my Mercedes or my Ferrari or like whatever those having an extra bedroom that I'm not going to use on my house or whatever, whatever those things are. And those are all nice things. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy those things, but it's really it's the experiences that I like. If I look back, and I'd say this is I would think this is true for all of us. If we look back to what we reminisce about, say 20 years ago, it wasn't the that our model of our car was the XL model. It was who was in the car with us. It was where we went to and we sat out and watched the sunrise that day. It's those are the things we remember, not the I had a gold plated doorknob per se, or I don't reminisce on the whatever the granite countertops in the kitchen, kind of thing. Again, all fine things to have, but the experience is what we reminisce on, and that at least for me anyway, it's where my fond memories are. So I really, really, really focus on the experiences and way, 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 way less than the I enjoy the nice things, don't get me wrong, but they don't bring me the joy like the experiences do.
Yeah, as you were saying that, something kind of popped into my head of like, okay, well, we all as human beings are prone to attachment,
Wait, say it
and
again.
we're all prone to attachment.
Mm,
Our egos get us attached to
mm,
certain things, and wouldn't it be interesting? Or I think what you just described is that your attachment is not to the material item as much as it is the experience. So redirecting the attachment to, I'm
mm,
attached to having radical, amazing, connected experiences with people in my life, whether it be vacations or just a morning on the front porch with my wife over a cup of tea, or just sitting down and having a meal and you know, or reading a book together or whatever. Those are healthy attachments to have, because you know you're right, bro. I mean, like when we're about ready to take that last breath, we're
mm.
not going to be like, oh man, I really wish that I would have got that red Porsche when I was 46. You know, we're gonna be like, yeah, I wish that I would have spent one more day. You know, I heard this amazing. Wow, this popped in my head. I was listening to Joe Rogan interview Peter Attia,
Mm,
and it's been floating around a little bit on Instagram now, this clip, which isn't surprising me because it really stopped me on my tracks. I was driving my car, and this guy, Peter Attia, was telling about a friend of his who gave him an exercise to do. And here was the exercise. It was because Peter Attia, I guess, has a couple of kids that are a little bit of a handful, you know, and they're in their like, you know, 12 years old range. And he said, when you're having one of those moments where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I can't be
mm,
present with this. I can't tolerate this. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to envision yourself as an 80-year-old man.
mm,
And I want you to envision that you're being given the choice of one more opportunity to be in this moment right now, the one that you're rejecting. Would you take it or would you not? And the answer is you're going to take it every time.
mm,
You know, it's like it's putting that perspective around it and realizing, you know what? these moments are the things that make life precious, and it's not, as you said, those material items. So thank you for bringing that up, and thanks for sharing a little bit about your morning routine, and gives me a feel for who you are too. I'm
Yeah.
glad I started off there, because as I'm getting to know you, that tells me a little bit about like what's important to you, what your values are in your life, etc.
Yeah, cause I tell you, Tim, like we have the chance to hang out, brother. I'd put me in a double wide out by a lake somewhere with Tim Braheem for an afternoon and sitting out there on the front porch drinking a tea. For me, would be
Some carrot
whether
sticks and
we,
some hummus.
yeah. That's right, that's right. Versus sitting at the Ritz Carlton at Laguna Beach,
Yeah.
right? Awesome
Uh-huh.
place, but I'm just as good in the like. Yeah, it's who I'm with is more important than even than yeah, who I'm with is more important than where I'm at when I'm with them. But I remember the person, the interactions, and the sharing of the things more so than the. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love traveling. I love Norway and Paris and London and Amsterdam is one of my favorite cities in the world, and I love all those things. But it's the people that I'm with when I'm there. And I know you've done a lot of traveling in Italy. I remember it, and I know for sure. And it's the people that I enjoy more, or that I remember more by far, than where we're at is inconsequential. Like
Mhm.
it almost doesn't matter.
Well, you've been to a lot of shitty places in your life with somebody great and you have a good memory, but you've also been to a lot of
Mm.
great places with nobody that was special to you and not had a good memory. And I love the fact that you love Amsterdam, because that's absolutely one of the best cities in the world. I've been there a few times, man. It's magic there.
I love Amsterdam.
Architecture, the bikes, the
What's your
bridges.
favorite city in the world?
Florence, because that's my city. I mean,
Mm.
that's where I lived for a year when I lived in Italy, and I'll be going back there in about 30 days. And yeah, no, I go there every year. But and a part of why, but to your point, Carl, I mean, Florence is a magical city, period. But it's incredibly magical to me because I have many, many friends there. So like when I go there, it's Florence is about the people that I get to go be with and
Yeah.
have a long lunch with, have a long meal with, go for a walk with, which is like another just cool feature of Italy is the phrase is passeggiata. So like somebody would say to you, vai andare con me passeggiata. Do you want to go for a walk with me? Like,
Mm.
like I might say that to you. Like guys say that to guys all the time. Hey, do you want to go for a walk with me? And we just go for a walk, like in the city, just walk and talk and maybe grab a coffee, and that's it. That's such a beautiful custom, is to,
Steve Jobs was famous for doing that.
what was he going for a
Yeah,
walk
yeah,
in the
he
city?
was famous for that. Like if he wanted to have a business meeting with you, you go for a walk.
Yeah, it's you get first of all, it's very healthy because your mind gets more creative when your body's
Mm.
in movement, much more so. But just to like, it's a part of that connection thing though that you're talking about. I mean, that's what life is about connecting with other people, and that's what brings joy. So let's transition. Let's get like businessy here for a minute. I want to talk to you about marketing because I mean I think that's your wheelhouse, and I'm super curious about your background on marketing. I know it's a passion of yours. I know that you've helped a lot of people with your marketing mind. So let's dive in there and let's talk about what one needs to be doing right now with marketing. I mean, take it wherever you want to go, but I'm gonna pull over to the side here and let you run now.
I love marketing, man. To me, marketing, it's like going fishing, where we try different lures and we try different tugs of the fishing pole to see what's working today. So I love marketing. It's like, gosh, I want to say it's a game because I don't want it's because it's a serious thing, but I love you know what it is, man. I love testing stuff. So I actually, believe it or not, my degree is in I have a master's in chemistry, oddly enough, and which is a whole nother story. And so the thing I liked about chemistry was the testing of stuff and the research, and I just love that stuff. And so marketing is really that way, as what gets people to take action on something. Which, by the way, let's just go ahead and assume that whatever you have is worthy of being marketed. Right. First thing you need to do is have an amazing product, because I can have great marketing with a bad product, and we're bringing bad things to the world, not good things. And I'm a karma guy. Karma's my best friend. So first of all, we have to make sure that we have an amazing product, right? And Tim, you've been known for that. You're, as far as I've known anyway, your whole life that I've known you in the mortgage business, you've always had just a phenomenal product, right? And so it makes the marketing part easy. But like it's just it's just trying the different things to see what works. Because I learned long ago when I started off as a loan officer, I was about 1 year in the business when I had this revelation that I wasn't a loan officer. I was a marketer that happened to be marketing loan officer services. And when I got that clarity in my mind, it was a game changer for me that a great loan officer knows how to fill out a 1003 and how to run DU. A great marketer knows how to attract the clients that we have a loan to do in the first place. So we can be a great loan officer and starve. If we're a great marketer, I mean, we can hire the help to be the loan officer part, because it doesn't take let's see, how do I say this? I don't want this to come the wrong way. Like, look, taking an application, just not that hard. Name, address, social security number, like it's just not that hard. So the hard part is getting the phone ring to take that application in the first place. That's the person that makes all the money. The person that makes the fries doesn't make any money. The person that gets that car to drive up to the drive-through to begin with, that's the person that makes, the money and that drives the engine and brings goodness to the world. Because I can be the best cake maker in the world, but if nobody knows it, it doesn't matter. It'd be like having, we mentioned Frank, and which I'm showing my age, of course, mentioned Frank at the beginning of the show, Frank Sinatra. If you're not a good marketer, Frank Sinatra's singing in the shower, nobody hears it but his wife. So if you're a great singer, you need to figure out, how do I get in front of I live here in the Tampa Bay area. How do I get, we just saw Ed Sheeran 2 nights ago here at the Tampa Stadium, had, I think, like 80,000 people come to see this one man singing on show. He's got a great product, right? Which is voice and his songwriting. He's genius at that. But there's a ton of people. You can walk down the streets of Nashville and listen to 100 phenomenal voices. But every now and then you get a Blake Shelton that knows how to market their services, and that's the one that sells albums.
Great
So,
point. Really good point. Really good tee up for that. So I love
which
that
by the way, where I first got this thought was I was in a bookstore and it said New York Times bestseller. And I thought, isn't that interesting? It doesn't say best written.
Mhm.
It's bestseller. It's not best written author, it's best selling author. And so it's not the best written book, it's the best selling book, which is the marketing part. And that's where it was actually in a bookstore that I had this mental shift. I'm a marketer, not a loan officer. So anyway, I didn't mean
Well,
to interrupt
I
you.
love, no, 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 it's okay. I love the juxtaposition of, that you came to the conclusion of as an originator early on. And I've always used the metaphor of baseball. So, marketing gets you at bats, and your sales scripting is what drives batting average. But they kind of work hand in glove, right? Because if you're relegated to bench duty because you're a pinch hitter and you're just not getting enough at bats, then you're never going to get good at hitting because you don't get enough opportunities. So you've got to be able to generate at bats to then give yourself the opportunity to work through what your sales scripting is and close the highest percentage of people possible. And you have to have knowledge too, because if you don't have the knowledge, especially in today's market, of how to structure challenging loans. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time. I've been doing this for a long time. We both probably could tell a dozen stories each about how we used our knowledge to open a door in a relationship that would have never been opened because the key was that unlocked the lock was knowing how to structure that challenging loan, which then impressed that person. And we cross-sold the listing agent on the deal, et cetera. But let's get a little bit more tactical with marketing. I mean, there's so many mediums, right? I mean, back in the day, I used to do a ton of consumer direct marketing, a lot of direct mail, and we had our own telemarketing operation with my partner, Bill Hillestad, many years ago. And door knocking and pulling data from title companies and putting flyers in the Los Angeles Times. I mean, I did all that stuff. And then in today's day and age, it's reels and clips and Facebook ads and all these things. What do you find, Carl, let's give the listener some direction here. Where should they be investing their marketing dollars right now? And what makes for effective marketing in today's world?
Well, I just recently saw a report that was done by, what was that company? Done by Next Gen Homebuyer, right? And I just saw a report from these guys that really has shaken my world a little bit here in the last, say, 60 days that I saw it. And it said that the question was, how did you find your loan officer? It was shocking. 3% was social media. 11% was online search. All right. Well, that means that online search was, what is that, 375% higher than social media. Brother, that blew me away. Like, that totally surprised me. It really did. Because what that taught me, which when I heard these numbers, it made sense. Because it's like, look, if I'm on Facebook, I'm on there, hey, checking out Tim and what's he up to. And hey, I hear he's in Florence. Let me go check out where he's, I want to see the streets that he's walking down, or he's in Florence. I'm checking out my high school buddy that I'm going to go visit this weekend, checking out, seeing what my kids are doing, whatever. And then a thing pops up. Hey, you want to get a mortgage? And it's like, no, man, I want to go check out my buddy last fishing trip or whatever. Right. Online search is different. Online search, I'm in there searching for a boat and I get an ad. Hey, want some more information about buying a boat? Well, yes, I do. I happen to be looking for that. I'm out searching for properties. Pops up. Hey, would you like information about financing? Well, yes, I would. That's exactly what my mind is on right this very second. So when I heard those numbers, it made sense, right? And I do, brother, I've spent literally, I don't know, probably at this point, I would say, I don't know the exact number, but it's got to be at least a couple $1,000,000 that I've spent of my own personal dollars on my own personal, this is not for any clients or anything, my own personal dollars, at least $2 million on Facebook ads and Instagram ads and LinkedIn ads and all this other stuff. So I do some serious social marketing, but come to find out that maybe I should have spent a little bit more time on online search information because it converts 375% more nationwide. Wait, it gets a little bit more interesting. So it was 3% social media, which I would have missed that question on multiple choice. I can tell you that. 11% was online search. 14% was my bank. And when I say my bank, that's what the respondents were saying. I go down to Bank of America and the teller says, "Oh, you buying a house? Go check this." Or I do my banking there is first place I call, which also means, by the way, that it might be like a credit union referring loan officer Tim, just say, because maybe the credit union, they do credit cards, they do cars, they do boats, but they don't do houses, or they do conventional, but they don't do FHA or VA. And so it doesn't mean that they necessarily did their loan at the bank. That's how they found their loan officer, which might have been another company, right? So interesting there. Maybe I'd spend a little bit more time contacting other banks, maybe that don't do the kind of loans that I can do. Here's where it gets interesting. How'd you find your loan officer? Friends and family, 27%. 27%. Now, if we go back to social media, that's a 900% increase. So 900% more people found their loan officer from friends and family than they did from social media. And what that tells me is when I'm marketing to my past database, which we do very aggressively, when we're marketing our past database, most of our loans that we get are not from the past database. It's from their friends, family, and coworkers. So most of the referrals we get from or most of the deals we close by marketing to our past database isn't their loan, it's their friends, family, it's the referral of them, which makes perfect sense because 27% of all people, that's how they found their loan officers, friends and family. So when we're marketing our past database. So the elephant in the room, of course, at 35% is real estate agents, and which was at 35%. In other words, more than 10 times more than social media. So this really got me thinking. It's like, well, gosh, it seems like, I mean, if we want to build our business, you'd go to the biggest and then work backwards, right? So I'd start with real estate agent marketing. I would go next to my past database. Heck, you could just do those two and throw all the others away, and you're still, what is that, 62%? So the vast majority just from those two things. I'm not a two-thing kind of guy, though. So I would definitely be marketing to the bank and online search, which we're definitely ramping up on the online search part. And frankly, maybe step away a little bit from the social media. Hey, I was at a fine group, was at the Mid-Atlantic Region Conference. which is a loan officer conference, one of the state conferences. I think it's Virginia and Maryland put together, if I remember right. So awesome group. There was about, I don't know, 500 people there. They were kind enough to have me share, have a class there, and had about, I don't know, 400 or 500 people there, something like that. And I asked a question. I said, how many of you in the last 6 months have marketed your services on social media in one fashion or another? Virtually 100% of the room raised their hand. Like, I think literally everybody. I said, all right, awesome. Put your hands down. How many of you have called your past database from A to Z in the last 6 months?
Very
Three
few.
people.
Yeah.
Three. And I'm not picking on, it's an awesome group, right? I'm not picking on that group. They're
No.
awesome. It's what I see across the nation, right? It was a typical showing. So I don't want to pick on the group because they were amazing. So, but three people out of 400 or 500, pretty good sized crowd. So let's call it 1%. So 1% had called their past database, which has a 900% improvement over social media. But you know what? It's
So
not their fault.
why do you think that is? I'm curious as to, I've explored this a lot lately in particular. Why do you think that is? Is it so few, only three people who called their past client database?
You know what? Cause you can't fail at a Facebook post. You can't fail at liking my realtor's post. I can't fail at showing this cool picture of me holding a big key, at a closing. I can't fail. I can't fail at checking my email.
Yeah, I
I
think
can't check.
there's like a slot machine effect, right, associated with social media. I mean, you're going to get some likes and that's going to give you the dopamine hit. And I
Yeah,
agree. I think that there's a lot of fear associated with calling. I mean, first of all, I think the very first thing that originators run up against when it comes to calling their past client databases, they just don't know what to say. And
100%.
they have the reason they don't know what to say is because they have the wrong objective. They feel like the intention behind the call should be to generate a result, which is I got a deal. And that
Mm,
shouldn't be the intention. That's the setup for failure that causes one to fear even making the call in the first place, because then you have to kiss a bunch of frogs, along the way. But what if we juxtapose that intention to something totally different, which is I'm calling to stay in touch with the relationships that I have because I know that they will yield. I mean, there, I've told this story a bunch of times, so I almost don't even want to repeat it because maybe a listener or two here have heard it before. But there is an annuity income in this business.
yes, there is.
There most definitely is, and it's your database. You may not be able to run a report at the beginning of the year like a life insurance agent that says, this is how much I'm going to make. But I guarantee you, and I know you know it, I know I don't need to tell you this. If you do the right things with staying in touch with your database, you actually don't, in most markets, really need to spend any money on marketing.
100% agree.
You
100% agree
just
that.
nurture the relationships
Mm,
you have, the people that you've done a good job for, hopefully in the past. And to your point, here's a really interesting question. Have you ever pondered this? Like, how many influencers are in my database? Wouldn't it be interesting to know the answer to that? And because the reason I pose that question that way, Carl, is because we all want to go after real estate agents because we perceive them as being influencers, and many of them are because of where they position themselves in the transaction. But there are also a tremendous number of influencers in our database that we don't even know about. And in many cases, they're the partner, the spouse that you didn't talk to on the
mhm.
transaction. Or you may not realize when you did the loan for Joe that Joe is actually, the president of his local, Elks Club or something in town, and has a lot of influence because you never took the time to ask. And then when you didn't, like, how many times, Carl, I'm curious about this because I know you've done a lot of database management. I'm super happy you went to this topic, and I love how you're answering this question, by the way. How many times have you run a report and then been astonished by, oh, wow, I didn't realize I get a lot of, this person's referred three people to me in the last 2 years, and I haven't spent any time even nurturing that. I worked my ass off to get three deals from this realtor in a 2 year period. I got three from him or from her. Like, you've seen that, right?
Oh, brother. So I'll tell you something not to do. Right. Some of my best experiences I've learned. Some of them are what to do. I've got a much longer list of what not to do. So I learned to track my referral sources. I remember I had this agent. Um, Man, I got super nice lady, right? And I got a lot of referrals from her, and in the appropriate way, of course. Spent a lot of time, right? And very pleasant. So enjoyed the time. And man, when she called, we like, not that she would say this, but we jumped, right? We took action because she sent us so many referrals. Until one day, Diane said, have you ever actually counted to see how many of those close? And well, it's a bunch. Well, as it come to find out, it was hardly any of them. And we found out we were spending all this time working these referrals, that she was fishing in a hole that was challenging. And so let me tell you a quick story. I love going to flea markets, even to this day. I don't know. They're like a treasure hunt for me. I really enjoy them, right? And so there's a flea market not too far down the road here. It's huge, massive. It's like the size of a stadium or something. It's massive, really big. And I thought, man, there's a lot of people here. Like, I would say tens of thousands of people go there on any given Saturday. It's a lot. And I thought, man. So I opened up a kiosk there, and we gave away a little something, little tchotchke of sorts, for people to fill out, put their name and their phone number and their email address in a fishbowl kind of thing. And come to find out, that was probably the worst idea I've ever had. That, come to find out, not everybody that goes to the flea market goes there for entertainment. Some go there because it's the only place that they can afford to buy stuff. And come to find out, that was not a good source of leads. So even though I had a ton of traffic, it was not good traffic. And we find the same on the leads that we're getting off of social media, that I might say, hey, we got 100 leads in for this. Yeah, but they're converting at about a 1 to 2% ratio. And so we're clogging up our system with the other 98. And even though it feels, well, we're busy, we're very busy. There's a difference between busy and productive. And I found that the online stuff tends to be a little bit more busy, and frankly gives us, and I love the way you said that, gives us our little dopamine boost. Like I was talking to a loan officer just this morning, and he said, he's something like, I got 10,000 views on my video. I go, awesome. How many gallons of gas is that? How many views is a gallon of gas? And so we forget about, we have to convert this feel good stuff into dollars and cents, and we have to make sure there's a real clear path to do so. So I'm not saying social media is not a good place to spend our time, right? I think it is a good place to spend our time. Oh, I don't know, about 3% of our time, right? Because which is a good piece of time. So I think 35% should be on our real estate agents, and apparently 27% on our past database, and apparently 11% on our online search stuff. And it's all good stuff, right? But I would pick one to start with, like, to get, like, if somebody's just getting started, if they find themselves closing like 2 3 loans a month and they're looking to ramp up. i I mean, my old thing has been, hey, what's the thing that brought in your last 10 loans, whether that was yesterday or last week or last month or all of last year, like whatever, it's all good, right? We all started at zero. So what brought in your last 10 loans? What did they have in common, or what did they mostly have in common? And figure out, how did you bring those in, and then just do more of that and get whatever that is, right? And if I don't, hey, maybe it is a TikTok video, right? Not for me, but maybe for you, right? Maybe it is. Awesome. Go do more of that. For most people, it's going to probably fall in the referral partner or past database range. Not everybody, but most people. And so that's where we should start first. Start with the thing that's going to move the needle the first, even though it might be the most scary.
Well, I love what you said earlier about being a chemist and liking to test things, or being a chemistry, a master's in chemistry. Because marketing is about testing things.
Oh, sure.
People give up so easily. Like, I always love to tell the story. I don't believe I shared with you in our podcast that we did for your show. My partner Rich Katz and I, we started Loan Toolbox. We launched it at NAM in Cleveland in the summer of 2001. And, we made like 53 sales at that event. And then we did not make another sale. And that was in like June or July, somewhere in the summer. We did not make another sale until February. And during that time, from say August to February, we had a telemarketer and an internal salesperson trying to make sales. And it took us that long to make a sale, 5 months. And then once we figured it out,
I love you, man.
then we scaled it and then we crushed it. And by the time it was like 2 years into the equation, we had, 7 telemarketers and 6 salespeople. And we were
Tim,
making,
I want to,
but it took a while because you got to figure it out.
I want to say something real personal, man, that I just mean with all my dears, with every fiber of my being. Brother, I am so glad you didn't quit, because when I first got in the business, Loan Toolbox was without question the most pivotal boost to my business.
Wow,
like you taught me how to market. And had you have quit, had you have given up, brother, I don't even want to think about where I'm being dead serious here. I don't want to think about where I'd be today. That my life, I am sure, would look different than what it does today. And my man, the amount of stories that you don't even know about, that of people that you've influenced over the years, it's not a small. Because see, here's the magic of this stuff, man. So you and I'm just one, right? So you influence one, and now I've been blessed to have been able to influence many thousands, tens of thousands at this point. But it came from one, from you, right? And again, I'm just one of what I'm sure is literally tens of thousands of stories that you don't even know about. And just the power of that is just remarkable. And it's so I didn't know about this story. So it's all about you didn't quit. And brother, I am so grateful that you didn't quit. And just the ripple effect from the activities that we do goes way beyond anything we could ever imagine. For instance, like for those of us that have kids, our kids are watching us, and they're what do they say? They don't listen to us because they're too busy hearing what they see us do, and my kids saw what happened to me, it influenced them, and it goes on through generational. So anyway, you own a big part of my life, my man, and I appreciate
Thank you, man. Thank you. I didn't know that you were a Loan Toolbox member, so that just really warms my heart.
I was a very early adopter. When did you start Loan Toolbox?
2000, summer of 2001.
That's about when I found you, was right about that time. So yeah, I kept it up until the point where I think you went into retirement for a little bit there, or go enjoy the fruits of your labor for a little bit.
Yep.
And well deserved. And so I was a paying member all through those years, and so it was a dramatic part of my experience for sure.
Cool, thank you. So I want to drill down deeper on some things that you shared that I think I'd like to ask you a few questions about. So I'm looking at my notes here. Man, those statistics sure were startling, weren't they? I mean, those statistics you gave us were super important, and I'm really glad that you shared them, and they were quite startling. And
Dude,
it's so interesting because, so many originators are hiding behind this, what you and I are on right now. They are not. This is still a contact sport. I mean, you got to get out there and you got to meet people. And that includes calling your database and checking in and talking to them. So let's talk frequency. I know that you have a formula that you believe is important for the frequency with which you touch base with your database. And I'd also like to, I think it's interesting because you do need to figure it out and test and try new things. And also success leaves clues. So sometimes we need to look at what other people are doing effectively in terms of frequency and the type of content that they're sending to their database to buy brain cells, to be top of mind consciousness. I'd like to understand what your philosophies are behind both the frequency and the content.
All right, awesome. So frequency, we simply did a test. So I have a very, very, very large database, like it's tens of thousands. So it's huge. And that has availed us to do some massive testing and with meaningful numbers. And so we figured out, like calling our past database, we figured out four times a year was the optimal number. And how we started that is part of our database. We didn't call them at all, but we snail mailed them and emailed them. And then part
Wait,
we
sorry,
called,
sorry. Just to clarify, 4 times a year to actually call them, or 4 times a year total to touch base with them?
oh no, just to call them, the
Just to
actual
call them.
phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So if I remember right, it's 72 touch points a year. So we call them 4 times a year. And how we do that is a simple, we call 2 letters the alphabet. So the A's and the B's this week, the C's and the D's next week, the E's and the F's the following week. And so we call two letters of the alphabet per week, right? In our case, we do it on Wednesdays. So every Wednesday we call 2 letters of the alphabet. And because there's 26 letters and 56 weeks, that equals up to be 4 times a year.
But when you say
And,
we, you have a whole team of people that do that.
oh, for sure. Well, so if I would say if somebody's closing anything less than say 10 loans a month, I would call myself, right?
But
So
isn't it dependent upon the size of the database? Like, I mean, if you have 1,000 people in your database versus 5,000, at some point in time, the size of the database dictates whether or not you have the time to
no
call
question,
them.
but again, if you've got more than like to get 1,000 people in your database, it's likely you're closing,
Yeah,
20 loans a
yeah,
month or
yeah, yeah.
15 loans a month or something like that. So anything less than say 5, 6, 7, 8, you probably got, like, I think the average, if I remember right, Tim, and you might have a more accurate number. If I remember right, the average loan officer, gosh, it seems like 300 people in their past database is an
I
average
don't know.
number,
Yeah, I'm not
somewhere in
sure.
that range. So anyway, so so the reason why we stuck to that number is we tested some we called 0 times, another group we called 1 time a year, the next group 2 times a year, the next group 3, the next group 4, the next group 5, the next group 6. And we found that 5 and 6 didn't increase the loan amounts or the referrals that received than 4 did. So 2 did better, 1 did better than 0, 2 did better than 1, 3 did better than 2, 4 did better than 3, but 5 and 6 didn't do better than 4. So we cut back to 4.
So
So
what's the script on those 4 calls? I mean, what are they saying to them?
we say the almost exact same time, every time. I think one of the problems is that we think we have to be clever. And I think oftentimes what holds somebody back is they go, well, I have to think of something clever to call them with. And it's like, don't worry about being clever. So, like, if you haven't called your past database, the good news is they haven't been sitting by the phone waiting for you, right? It's not like they're,
Yeah.
gee, Carl, he doesn't call, he doesn't write,
Yes,
refers, right?
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
And they're sobbing beside the phone. They don't know I'm
That's
supposed to
that's
be
just
calling.
that's just the story that we tell ourselves, is that they're wondering why we haven't called.
Yeah,
They
and if
don't
I
even
call, it's going to be
remember.
weird, right? Like, why are you calling me after 3 years or 5 years or 6 years? They think it's going to be weird. It's not going to be weird any more than the guy I bought my motorhome with last time. I think it was what, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Never called me. So we buy one about every 4 years, right? And brother, I don't have to. The price of things are the price of a house, right? These things are expensive. For the last, I think we bought our first one 20 years ago. I've not one time had the salespeople call me with a follow up call, like, ever. And oh, by the way, I've never bought one from the same person twice. Just to me, it's just a special kind of stupid. Like, it's just crazy. So, so the script. So number one, remind them who you are. If it's been a while, hey Tim, this is Carl. I helped you with your mortgage last time, right? So refresh their memory on who you are. Number two, they go, well, what's the purpose of my call? Oh, I don't know. How about to thank them? Hey, Tim, I just calling the purpose of my call, brother. I just want to thank you so much for letting me help you and your family buy your home, the last home you just bought. Third part, hey man, how's it going? Right? Just shut up and listen. It's like these are like 3-minute phone calls, right? So remind them who you are. Purpose of my call is a thank you. Hey, how you guys doing? Uh, Fourth part is, hey Tim, I know I'm sure you're busy, so I'm going to let you get back to it. I just want to let you know, if you ever have any mortgage or real estate questions, you can call me. My number is 555-1212. And then the last piece is my call to action. And Tim, one more thing before I go, can I ask you a favor? And this is just the way I talk. I say my friend and brother. It's in my vocabulary. So whatever's natural for you.
Yeah, yeah,
But I would say, hey brother, is it okay if I ask you a personal question or personal favor?
sure.
And they're always going to say one of two things. Depends on what you ask, or just sure, right? So if it depends on what you ask, fair enough. And then I go into the rest of the script, or sure. Hey man, can I count on you anytime a friend, family, coworker is looking to buy, sell, or refinance? We call it my 3x3. Friends, family, coworker looking to buy, sell, or refinance. Can I count on you? Give me a call, my man. I'd love to help your friends out too. I find cool people, hang out with cool people, and I'd love to help your friends too. Can I count on you for that? They always say yes, and that's it. So it's remind them who you are, thank them. Hey, if you ever have any, how you guys doing? If you ever have a question, here's my number. Can I count on you to give me a call? Friends, family, coworker, buy, sell, refinance. That's it. And we do the exact same script 4 times a year. And I've never once, out of thousands and thousands of calls, I've never once had somebody say, Carl, that's the exact same script that you used the time before and the time before and the time before and the time before. Like we have it in our mind that I have to come up with something clever, or I have to, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but I have to come up with did you change your batteries in your your fire alarm, or, hey, it's that spring cleaning time, which is okay to do. I'm not saying that there's nothing wrong with that at all, right? That's totally cool. It's just for me, I get paralyzed on I spend 3 days trying to think of something clever instead of just freaking calling. And I found, Tim, that people think about us way less than what we think they do, right? They're too worried about what you think of them. And when I got in my mind, when I came to the understanding, they don't think about me near as much as I think they do. It took all the pressure off that I'm not there to entertain them or perform. I'm just making a sales call. And
And I loved what you said too about this, scripting. First of all, I mean, I've said for, over 20 years now, the truth is the easiest script. There's nothing to memorize.
mm,
Just be truthful. It's
mm,
what's way more important than the words is
mm,
the energy that the words are riding on. And if they're riding on an energy of discomfort or reticence in some way because you're trying to be too cute, they're going to feel that. And it's
mm,
not going to feel like a very comfortable call. And if it's riding on the energy of you being loose and comfortable and just being yourself, as you said,
mm.
then that's going to foster connection, which is really what you're going for here. At the end of the day, you just want to connect with them for those 3 minutes. I love your formula. Thank you for breaking it down into a tactical formula. But what I love even more than your formula is what you said about, hey, this is how I do it, but do it in a way that is you, like what your style is. Like I couldn't deliver personally what you said. I would deliver something different that is more indicative of my personality and how I show up in the world. But that's what's most important. And what's even more important than all that is just making the calls.
Yeah,
Because what you're really looking for here is just to be top of mind consciousness.
that's it.
So anytime they have a need, they think of you. And
Yeah.
almost in spite of yourself, and I'm sure you've had those experiences that I had where, just you have that fateful day when rates drop and all of a sudden your phone just starts ringing off the hook and you start having these weeks and then months where you're just like, geez, I don't know where all this is coming from, but man, it's exploding right now. And that's because you had enough lines out in the water, back to your fishing analogy, with bait on them. And now it's time for the fish to bite, and you just start
But
reading.
again, most of our loans with our past database isn't their next loan. It's their friends. It's their cousin Bob. Their my mom, my dad, a guy at my work. Like most of our loans aren't theirs. I think that's a mistake a lot of loan officers make. Is they think we just came out of a couple years of like 2% interest rates. Heck, I already refied everybody. There's no loans there. It's not their loan. It's their friends, family, and coworkers' loan. So I think we really have to make sure that, or for me, I didn't know that, right? It wasn't until we started looking at the data. It was like, holy crap, the money isn't their loan. Their money is their friends, family, coworkers' loan. That's where the money is, which makes sense when we looked at that chart that 27% of all people got their loan officer from a friend, family, or coworker, right? Which was astounding. I thought if I hadn't seen that report, I would have thought for sure that social media would be ahead of friends and family. And it shocked me that it was 1/9 as big on the social media as it was on friends and family. So yeah,
Yeah,
marketing
those, I
past
mean,
database is a big deal.
that's your outside sales force. Those are your ambassadors. It's
Yeah,
almost like if you don't reframe it and look at it through that lens that those people in my database are my ambassadors. And it's
you bet.
almost like saying, okay, I have an outside sales force, but I never meet with them for a sales meeting. Okay, so what you're saying is meet with them for 3 minutes once a quarter for a sales meeting, which is to just simply connect with them, thank them, see if they need anything, and remind them that you would be grateful if they would introduce you to anyone who might be in need of your services. That's your sales meeting. You know,
That's
it's
it.
now
I,
what
I'm,
about the
I'm
other 68 times? Because
so
you
so
talk,
I will tell you though. I will tell you though that we found so I agree 1,000%. Like make it your own. Like however you talk, right? Except for one piece, the call to action. When we inserted in, can I count on you on the ask? We got a big bump when we did that. So what we used to say is, hey, if you need anything, give me a call. Hey, if I can help you, give me a call. When we add, or if you can think about me, give me a call. Or if you have a friend, let me know. But when we said, can I count on you? And they say yes, their ear hears, their mouth says, you can count on me, Tim. Right? That was a game changer. So I would caution, or not caution, I would encourage our listeners today to make sure that your call to action is purposeful and crystal clear of what you want. So that's a big component. I'm convinced that if if when I see loan officers add that one component, like don't change anything other than at the end of every business communication to end that call with, as our mutual friend Frank Gray says, it's a new way to say goodbye. So the new way to say the goodbye is, hey, one more thing before you go. Can I count on you anytime friends, family, coworkers looking to buy, sell, or refinance? Or if we're talking to our referral partner, can I count on you for that next referral? I'd love to work with you twice this month. If we just did nothing but add that call to action to the end of every single phone call, instead of saying bye bye, which does nothing, that alone would be a game changer.
all right, so I'm going to ask you to coach me. You ready?
Oh dear.
All right. So
I feel like I'm getting ready to tell Frank Sinatra how to
full,
sing, and I'm a little bit
full,
nervous about that.
full disclosure. I never, as an originator, ever once asked for a referral,
Oh dear.
including saying something along the lines of what you just said. And even just hearing you say it a couple of times, I'm like squirming in my seat going,
Yeah.
there's no way that I could say that. Now I'm aware of why I couldn't say it. And I'm buying in fully to what you're advising right now. So let's just talk about it for a minute. So you're saying, you know, that you got to close with a call to action and ask for what you want. Like I think that's really important what you just articulated. For me, I realize that I have this thing where I feel very insecure
Mm.
about asking for help from people. Because
Mm.
when I do, I feel like I'm imposing. That's the story that I tell myself. And I have to believe that somebody listening right now to our conversations, like, oh, yeah, I'm like you, Tim. Like, I feel that way too. I remember Daniel Harkavy, I mean, it was like more than 25 years ago, said, he was my coach at the time. He's like, if you do you imagine how many loans you would do, how many more
Mm.
loans you would do if you would just ask for a referral every time? And I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like fear of public speaking almost, which I don't have, but it's
I
like
hear you.
that big, right? So how would I overcome that hurdle of, because I do think that like what you just, and I'm not saying what you said is heavy handed. I'm saying what I hear feels heavy handed, but that's because it's going through my own perceptual filter. And I'm going like, oh my gosh, like that seems like I would be really putting the person on the spot. And then I think what's underneath that is I want them to like me, and I'd be afraid that they don't like me because I put them on the spot. So
Mm.
what would you impart upon me from a place of wisdom as to how to overcome that?
All right. So let me ask something, my man. So Tim, and I need you to take off your humble hat here for a second. Okay. You're a very successful, yet very humble guy. Right. So take off your humble hat here just for a second. Are you fully like here? Let's say your podcast that you do, the 360 experience, right? Can we both agree that anybody that subscribes to your podcast is going to be better off than if they didn't?
I sure hope so. I think
No, no,
so.
no. I didn't say what you hope. Can we agree that for sure the vast majority is going to be better off listening to you
Yeah,
and
I
your
think so.
wisdom than if not? I think
I
so. I
think
know
so.
so.
I
No,
think
no
so.
question. I know because I know the effect you've had on me. Right. So, so now that we know that if they subscribe to this podcast and the people listening to this forward this to their friends will be grateful that they did because you give really good experience. How dare us rob those people of an experience by not asking them to refer this out to their friends, right? Because the person and I remember who it is, the person that referred me to Loan Toolbox literally changed my life, like literally. And so I see you got your humble hat on. You're going, no, no, you would, oh, dude, no, maybe not. And so thank God somebody gave me a call to action to join Loan Toolbox, or today in today's world, that the person listening to your 360 experience, likely somebody referred them to you, right? Most of the people didn't just search it and happen to it. Somebody said, hey, I listened to this really cool guy. It's really good stuff. It's a great podcast. You ought to listen to it. So how dare us not give, not openly ask people to join into it because you're there helping them, right? How dare you? I look at this real serious. How dare you let them get in their boat with with bad gas in their engine as they're heading out to sea to feed their family, and you know they got bad gas? How dare you? I'm not saying this to you, my brother, right?
No, no, no. Listen, this is
This
great. Keep going.
all right,
I
this is
love
what
how
I say
this
to
unfolds.
myself. So this is what I say to myself. I don't want to be
No,
seen as a fool.
so let me just say real quick, what I'm watching you do is a brilliant job of reframing the story that I'm telling myself. So I'm
Yeah.
right with you. Keep going.
Okay. How dare you let this lady who's trying to put food on the table, who maybe is a single mother that is hearing her father or her mother tell her when she was a kid, you don't want to be dependent upon a man, or wrong way to say it. You don't want to be dependent on somebody else. So she's out there trying to do her own gig, and you can help her and her family. How dare you let her get into a boat with bad gas in it and not be there to help her, right? And you know it's bad gas, and you know she's going out there in the waters where there's going to be a storm, and you know she's going to be in trouble without your services. How dare you be so thoughtless? Now, again, I'm not saying this to you, my brother.
I
This is what I
understand.
say to self, Carl, and because I know that, like in my mortgage world, right? Because I'm a branch manager, that I know that loan officers that join me do better than they did before, right? They close more loans and help feed their family, um, help teach their kids how to be successful. And so our call to action is nothing more than telling people the truth on how we can help them. So it goes back, first of all, have a great product. And then once you got a great product, once you can sing, then our job is do whatever marketing we can to get in front of those people because we're there to help them. They just don't know it yet. And so for me, it's like, I love you enough that I'll risk our relationship to tell you the truth and to offer to help you out. Because I really, with all my heart, believe you're better off with me than without me. Right. I really believe that.
That's
Right.
the key thing. That is the really pivotal point. Like if you can't say it, then you have to take a deeper look at what your belief is about your product, right? So like if you don't have conviction in what you're offering, then that can be getting in the way of you asking for what you need, which is because the story that you're reframing to does require you to actually believe that you have something more valuable to offer than if they were to go somewhere else. But I
Yeah.
don't think it just ends with that. I mean, thank you for all of what you shared. And I'm so glad I asked the question. I harken back to like this critical moment, which was, do you remember Brian Tracy, the
Of
speaker?
course. Of course I
Okay,
know Brian
so
Tracy.
I was in San Francisco at a Todd Duncan event. It was probably like my second Todd Duncan event or my third one, and it was a sales mastery. And Brian Tracy was speaking.
Two of my favorite people, by the way.
I was so into this presentation by Brian Tracy. I thought he was just brilliant. And then with about 10 minutes to go, He was giving so much value. He stopped and took out the full-blown infomercial with like the tapes, the audio cassettes and all that stuff that used to happen back then. And I remember feeling so disappointed. Like I was like really bummed out. I was like, wow, like this guy, I thought he was a great teacher and all of this was a setup for him to sell me. And I felt raped. I know that's a really strong word, but that's kind of the only word that comes to mind. It had this like really big impact on me to where I was like, I'm never going to be that guy. Like I never want to be the guy that has an agenda that is other than helping. Like I just want to like help and help and help. And I will earn business as a result of just helping a lot. And people will decide on their own whether they want to refer people to me or come back to me.
But
So
but if you don't,
that's how
but
I
if
was
you don't,
successful. But with that said in closing, I agree with you. Like I do think I probably could have done even more loans had I had a better script like the one that you're articulating.
and not just do more loans, but help more people.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not just about the loans. Cause I hear what you're saying, man. You got a heart the size of Texas, right? So yeah. So by the way, I bought those tapes from Brian Tracy, and brother, they were awesome.
I bet they were. So
were.
I cost myself out of my own limiting belief. I probably could have bought those. I didn't buy them and I should have bought them because I liked them.
So Brian's, I love his stuff. I bought a ton of his stuff, right? I bought a lot of his stuff, but he's I don't know. It's just, maybe, I don't know. It's just, we'll leave it at that. That I think, okay. I think it's real important to have a call to action, because otherwise people don't know how you can help them more unless you tell them. And I think the other thing is like, it's like if I was to say to you right now, so, gosh, what's a cool way to do this? So if I say to you right now, hey, Tim, you think this has been helpful for some of your listeners, what you and I've been talking about today? Do you think it'll help some people?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Hey, man, if you're kind enough to invite me back, could I ask you a favor?
Sure.
Could you let your database know that you're inviting me to join, so maybe I could meet more of your people again in the future? Would that be okay to ask?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did that sound weird at all?
No.
Yeah. So I think it goes back to, I think like when we think that when we have a call to action, it sounds weird, but I think in their minds, it doesn't sound weird. Like I think it goes back to, people don't think about us near as much as we think they do.
Mm-hmm.
That, I don't think a call to action sounds weird at all. If I'm there, like if Tom Brady says, hey, you come to the game, you buy, I get it, he just retired, but he retired from Tampa Bay, which is where I'm at, right? So if he was to say, hey, man, you buy a ticket, I'll give you an amazing game. So you're going to want to come to this game. The dude gives amazing, win or lose, right? It's an amazing game. It's well worth the ticket. And I'm so glad he invited me to buy a ticket to go watch him play, because I've got great memories of watching him play, because he's absolutely amazing. So I would say, and I'm not saying this to you because you already are amazing, but I would say to our listeners, be amazing, and then invite people to be part of your amazing. So that's all. That's it.
I love that. I love that last part a lot. Be amazing, and then invite them to experience. You have to feel like you have something to give. And if you don't feel that, then that's another bit of information to really take a look at, which is, what do I need to do to feel like I have something amazing to offer? What are the common denominators of top originators in the mortgage business? They're well scripted. They have a system for marketing themselves that generates leads. They manage an effective database, and they have strong referral partner relationships. The other common denominator of many great originators is that they have a business and life plan, a roadmap, a guide for them to achieve success, and they have an ally, a coach, who assists them in the successful implementation of that plan. Performance Experts Performance Accelerator private one-on-one, one-year coaching program is now accepting applications. This is my company, and these are my certified coaches that specialize in the mortgage business. Go to www.mortgagecoachingnow.com and click on Get a Coach, or go to the show notes and click on the link that's provided in this episode. Now let's get back to the show. So let's go back to the database. I love where this is going. 72 touch points. We covered 4, which is 4 phone calls. You want to
Right.
give us a quick high level on the other 68?
Sure. And I hope I got my numbers right. I just said off the top of my mind. So the other thing we do is we snail mail them once a month.
Okay. What do you send?
And what do we send?
Yeah.
The same thing every single month.
Which is what?
So we send well, that's not true. It's a little different. And I'm trying to remember, gosh, his name just if you look in the Guinness Book of World Records, he's literally listed as the world's greatest salesman. What's his name? I hate the title of his book. It's How to Sell Anything to Anybody.
Okay.
I can't
I'll
remember
look
his
him
name.
up. I'll look him up while you're talking.
Okay. Anyway, so I got the idea from. I was just giving credit to where I got the idea from. So what he taught me to do is the mailer that we send on the outside of it says "I like you" with a Facebook blue thumbs up.
Is it Augmendino?
No,
Okay, keep going. Sorry for interrupting.
I'll think of him in just a minute. So the outside says "I like you" with the Facebook thumbs up. So it's not weird. If I send you something "I like you," it's like, well, that's kind of weird. Well, not with the Facebook thumbs up, because then it kind of makes it cool. And then you open it up on the inside. It's insert in whatever holidays. Let's say it's I don't know what holidays in May.
Made Memorial Day.
Memorial Day. So we would put in there. So the outside "I like you." You open it up. Says handwritten, "Happy Memorial Day, Carl White," and that's it. Put a business card in there, and we handwrite one of them, take it down to the printer, and they through a color copier make 20 or however many, 300, like whatever your database is, or 1,000, 200, 5, 10, whatever it is, make that many copies of it. I give them my database. They use a computerized handwritten font on the envelopes, cost me 11 cents each, which includes the envelope. And then the receptionist, and they fold them, but the receptionist stops them and we mail those out. So "I like you," insert in holiday, "Happy National Chocolate Banana Day, Carl White." That's it. That simple mailer we send out every single month. Just that's it. And we do that because we found when we mailed it out once a month, we closed more loans, right? We close more loans when we do that. So we do that 12 times. So hope my math is right here. I feel like I'm on the spot here. And then the next thing we do is email them out once a week. And the thing we email out is very simple. And I don't think there's any magical formula to the email, because it doesn't have, the email was the least effective of everything. So the phone call is number one, the snail mail is number two, the email is number three, and number three by far. So it's not even close to number one and number two. We could stop the email and it wouldn't change that much, or it didn't change that much with the part of our database that we didn't email. But it was a difference, certainly worth doing. It wouldn't be the first thing I would do. I would call first, I'd snail mail second, I'd email third.
Man,
And
you got me
what's
on
that?
the chocolate banana thing, because I went directly to the frozen bananas covered in dark chocolate.
You were there, huh?
I haven't had one of those in a long time, man. And I haven't had lunch yet today, and now I'm thinking about those darn things. Okay, so how about voice? Have you ever used voice broadcasting? Because I used to use voice broadcasting a lot with my database, and I've been thinking a lot about it lately and talking to my clients about it. I think that in today's day and age where everything's done with video and stuff, I think some of the things, Carl, like I really loved hearing the fact that you do direct mail, because I think things that it's all about saturation, right? So, video and TikTok and Instagram, it's starting to become so oversaturated that it doesn't catch your attention because there's just too much of it. And now you can start to go back to some of the tried and trues, like a direct mail piece or a personal handwritten note card, or, Jay Dacey, right?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so Jay's a good buddy of mine. And, Jay's for a long time, religiously, every month, he writes a one-page typed letter to his database that he signs at the bottom. And he just sends it out on what's going on in his world with his family, the vacations they're taking. It's not egoic. It's actually very well written from a humble perspective. But he's just staying in touch with his clients, and it works. And he does a lot of loans as a result of it. And I've been encouraging my clients lately to do voice broadcasting. We just record a message, send it out to everybody, wishing them a happy Memorial Day weekend, and drop it in their voicemails, or happy 4th of July, which I used to do every year on 4th of July. And some of the stuff that's coming out now with AI, I mean, how much have you been checking out AI and some of this crazy stuff you can do with that?
I right now, so I've got a full-time employee that does nothing but that. And so far, we found most of that is with content creation, which falls back into the 3%. And so I think it's really cool. It's fascinating. I played with it a little bit, and what it does is absolutely amazing. I think we're just scratching the surface of it. But as of right now, a phone call will outproduce an AI every day of the week. So
Mhm.
as far as like the phone
Well,
broadcast,
but
go
what
ahead.
I'm referring to, like, are you aware of the fact that with AI, like I can, so let me walk you through this. So I can record um, a message to you and have it say, "Hey, Carl, it's Tim Braheem with First Rate Financial, and I just wanted to wish you a happy Memorial Day weekend. I hope you and your family are doing well, and you're doing something fun together and having a nice barbecue. Summer's here, baseball season's here. Just wanted to let you know that I'm thinking about you. Give me a call if you need anything at all. If any friends or family members of yours know that you know of might be in need of financing, I'm here to help out in any way I can." Boom. Now, notice I said, "Hey, Carl," but with AI, it will salutate to everybody else's name, which I never used to be able to do. I used to have to say, "Hey, it's Tim Braheem with First Rate Financial, blah, blah," no
Yeah.
salutation. Now with AI, it'll match your voice and it'll be, "Hey, Mary, hey, John, hey, Bill." That's pretty cool.
It is, and I think there's some really good stuff with that. The only thing about that is we actually want to talk to those people, because we found that when the people that answered their phone, 2 out of the last 4 calls, we got 24% more referrals from the people that we actually spoke to. And so we use a little service. I'm not going to name the service, but we use an auto dialer.
Is it phone burner?
Phone burner. That's exactly
Yeah,
what we
yeah.
use.
Yeah,
So
because that,
awesome.
but see, that can do both, right? Doesn't phone burner, it leaves the message if it doesn't get them, pipes it into your headset if it does.
That's right. It's awesome service. Like
Yeah.
I love it. And so we go to so on phone burner, if we do a pre-recorded message
Mhm.
where it leaves that message, and can't remember the number, but it's somewhere around 20% we get that answers their phone, give or take. So on that 20%, we have a real conversation, but on that 20%, we get a disproportionate amount of referrals from the ones that actually answer their phone.
Mhm.
So for me personally, um, in the case of like an all of a sudden we have a rate dip and we need to call a bunch of people in one day, I think that's an absolutely great idea. And trust me, my man, I think it's a great idea. Look, anything's better than doing nothing, and I think that's a great way to do it. It is, but we'll get even more closings if we actually speak to that person. We get more referrals, and so. But I love that idea about how the AI can drop their name into it. It's really good stuff.
So I used to write the schedule for my kids, for my son's baseball league. So for like 4 years, I was the guy who I was also a coach for the league, but I would write the schedule for every division.
Dude, when I thought you couldn't get any cooler, you just step it up a
it was like
notch.
a
So good for you, my man.
monstrous project. Okay,
Good for you.
and what I would do was I would record messages to the database of all the parents of the kids that played in this little league to let them know about the charitable auction that we're doing this Saturday night, to let them know that opening day starts at 8 a.m., to let them know that the playoffs begin 5 or 6 times, and or when there were rain, when we had rain, which happens very occasionally here in California, but when we would get some days that were rained out, I would call the entire database with one message and say, "Hey, there's no games today." And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, if I was still in the mortgage business, which I wasn't anymore at that time, I was like, these calls should be sponsored by,
Ooh,
right?
that's a very
So,
clever idea.
so I'm thinking about this from a perspective of like, what can you do Let's
Isn't that
just use
interesting?
you, Carl, for an example. Like, what can your team do? What group can you give to and take this service to? And you do the messages when they need them done, and they're always sponsored by Carl White Home Loans or whatever, whatever the brand
Yeah, yeah,
is.
yeah. That's very interesting. I've never thought about that. That's very clever, my man. Dude, you're one smart dude, brother.
Every
I'm just
once in a while, I
saying.
come up with something. Hey,
Oh yeah, once in a while. Yeah.
so so I want to talk about. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. Like, what about the 35%? What are a couple of tips to market to real estate agents right now in
Man,
today's
just call
market?
them. Just call them.
And
It's
what
it's
say what though? What are you going to say to them?
uh it depends on who they are. So I think the biggest mistake I see people make, our loan officers make, is not calling what I'm going to say is qualified agents. And I just want to clarify that. So, and I'm not just saying this because that sounds nice. I think every human being is an awesome, right? Everybody that has been given the gift of life, I think, is an amazing creation, right? And on my weekends, I can spend time with anybody that I want to in my evenings, anybody I want to. During my work day, I have to focus on people that'll help me move my business, and I'll help them and they help me, right? It's a symbiotic relationship. But I have to be very, very, very careful on who I spend my time with, that they actually have business to refer to me. Because otherwise, I'll get this great script from the master himself, Tim Braheem, and I'll do his strategy. And if I'm using it on somebody that can't refer to me, after doing it for 2 months, I'll go, well, geez, this strategy that Tim gave me doesn't work. Oh no, it works great. I'm just trying to get oranges out of an oak tree. Not going to happen, right? So I'm knocking on the wrong tree. And so we have to make sure that the real estate agents we're calling have, and I use a number, you might have a different one, but mine is they have to be closing at least 8 buyer sides in the last 12 months. Number one. And it will shock loan officers when they actually look up the numbers of the agents that they have in their, let's call it their VIP list. We call it a Focus 40. So whatever their VIP list is, I would bet you that if they have 40, and I'm just grabbing that number, if they have 40 VIP agents, I bet you if they haven't checked it, I bet out of 40, maybe six, five, four, five, six will actually be qualified typically. Now you're going to have some outliers, but if they haven't checked, it will shock them. So first thing, make sure you're knocking on the door. Make sure you're picking oranges from an orange tree. Make sure you're picking oranges from an orange tree. That'd be the first thing. And then it's simply calling them. And I'm a relationship guy. And so for me, like, Tim, what's everybody's favorite subject? Like everybody. You bet. So that's what, dude, you called me up. Hey, Carl, I'd love to interview on my podcast for 2 hours where we talk about you. It's like, you had me at hello, right? Or you'd have me at hello anyway, Tim, but it's like, cool. That's my favorite subject. I'd love to talk about me for 2 hours, right? So, so we play on that, right? I mean, it's very effective, and it is. And look, people like people who like them. People are interested in people that are interested in them. I remember I met with I got an early lesson early in my career. Went to a real estate agent, and dude, and I had my gift of knowledge CD printed out from Loan Toolbox. It was so cool, man. This is really cool for me, Tim. I just want you to know this is completing a circle for me.
Oh, right on.
So
Thank you.
went to this real estate this meeting with this guy, and I learned, all right, ask questions, shut up and listen. Ask questions, shut up and listen. Ask questions. So I asked this guy, like, so hey man, how'd you get started? The guy went on like a 25-minute monologue, right? I joke around that I say he must have had a blowhole in the back of his neck. I never saw him take a breath. Like he was off to the races, right? Telling me about him. About 25 minutes into it, I said, wow, boy, look at the time. Carl, you're a fascinating guy. I
Yeah,
really, really
exactly.
like you. Dude,
Exactly.
I didn't say anything, like
Mhm.
nothing. And I learned a lesson that day that people like talking about their favorite subject. And so instead of showing up and saying, hey, I can do this and I can do that, and I can do this, I can do that, like this dude had zero interest in helping him build his business because he's already successful. And so for me to go say, hey, Bob, or hey, Debbie, I'm going to help you build your business would be like me going to, I don't know, say, um, Taylor Swift hey, Taylor, you want me to help you write some songs? She goes, I kind of got that already. I'm already, do you know who I am? Not that she would say that, right? But
Hmm.
in her mind, she go, do you know who I am? Or Ed Sheeran, I'm going to help you write some songs. Dude, do you know who I am? And so when we go to agents, say, I'm going to help you build your business, that might not be the best thing to come out of the gate if we're talking to already successful people. Now, if I'm talking with somebody who's brand new, doesn't have a lot going on, it's a much better script to use that. But dude, it'd be like me calling you up. Hey, Tim, you want me to teach you how to teach loan officers? It's like, dude, do you know who I am? Not that you would say this, Tim, but I'm sure you would think it as anybody would that be in your position. Dude, don't you know who I am? I don't need help with that. I'm the godfather of this. And you are, man. You're the godfather in that realm. And so I think it's more about getting them to asking them questions, shut up and listen, and then having a call to action. Tim, you're an amazing guy, which you are, brother. It's easy to see why you've had such success, which it is. And I'd say, man, if you were a real estate agent, man, if I could hit the universe reset button and only work with people like you, Tim, I'd be in loan officer heaven. Brother, can I count on you for that next buyer referral? I'd love to work with you. Can I count on you for that, my man? What would I need to do to make that happen? And shut up and see what they have to say. And if they say, well, you got to do this and that and this and that, and the list is longer than I care for, I'd say, hey, man, this might not work out, right?
I think that I could not agree with you more. So we're on the exact same page. I figured that out 1999. First appointment that I did
Yeah.
this with was a lady by the name of Kathy McLean, who was a superstar real estate agent. That was when the game changed for me. Was, oh shit, this is actually a lot easier than I thought. It just takes a little bit more time. It just
Mm,
requires me to have a little more patience and to make
mm,
it about them, ask a lot of open-ended questions that get them to open up to me more, um, and also evoke curiosity in
mm,
who I am. See, that's the
mm,
thing, is that most originators go full force, guns ablazing, and vomit all over the person and leave nothing up for mystery. And
mm,
it's like, what would it be like if you actually ended the appointment after 25 minutes as you did, and the person actually never heard anything about you? They just know that they felt good. And they felt good
mm,
because
mm,
they were seen and they were heard,
mm,
and they were able to talk about their favorite subject, as you said. And then the meeting ends, or it comes to an end, and they're kind of like, I don't know why I felt so good talking to this guy, Carl. I just know that I want to talk to him again. But see,
mm,
most, like, I like to use the metaphor that, or analogy, that it's kind of like, I hope this doesn't sound chauvinistic. It's not intended to be to anyone, but I'm a guy, so I look at it through that lens. It's like all top producing realtors, men or women, are like a really, really hot 6 foot tall blonde that's attractive that everybody's looking at. They're so used to being hit on that they have to have a defense mechanism to counter all of these overtures, right? Otherwise, it would just be too overwhelming to them. Okay. So if you're a top producing realtor, you're having people hit on you all the time. It's no different than if you're a top producing loan originator and your MI on all the MI reps are coming after you. You have to figure out what are the defense strategies to govern your time and to protect yourself. So what actually gets that attractive person to be interested in you? Well, because you're different, because you're not
mm,
acting desperate, because you're not putting on the full court press, because you actually are exhibiting some confidence in yourself, which, by the way, in my mind, is probably the most important thing about that strategy that you articulated, which is, I'm confident enough in myself to where I can just listen, to where I
mm,
don't need to close you. Now all of a
mm,
sudden you're attractive, and so there's a lot of psychology involved in it. So what I heard you say in summary, and I really think this is important, is you're 1,000,000% correct, as I know you know. I mean, I'll never forget, I'm thinking about one client of mine who about 6 years ago, I couldn't figure out the math. I mean, I'm like, how many realtors do you have that send you business? And he said, I think the number was like 55. I'm like, but bro, you're doing like 11 deals a month. I'm like, are 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 they all giving you just 1 or 2 deals a year? he didn't really know. And when we went back and we did the math of the 55 in the previous 12 months, he actually only got deals from like 17 of them. So I'm like, well, then you don't have 55 realtors that send you business. You have 17. And what is the effect of diluting your attention and focus so much? And what does it create in the way of, to your point, the frustration of what I'm doing isn't working? Because so much about this business is momentum, right? It's about feeling good about yourself. It's having wins. It's having some bounce in your step. Well, if 38 people that you've been chasing after for a year haven't given you a deal, that actually is reverse momentum. It actually really hurts your confidence in yourself. Thank you for
But
articulating that.
I would say most of the time they're not referring is because they don't have something to refer.
Yes.
Which means to go back to make sure they're qualified. Hey, and just one other
Yes.
thing.
And what do you go there for that? MMI? Is that what you're suggesting for that?
Or a service like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
No, that's a super important point. Like, why even pursue them? I realized that, Carl, I don't know, probably took me like 5 years, and I realized, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So people that do a lot of business, why am I avoiding them out of my own insecurity and thinking that I'm not good enough to get the top producer?
Which, by the way,
they're the ones who actually have deals to give me.
Yeah. Which by the way, again, so how many times have we heard, like, a very attractive male or female? You and I are both guys, though, and so let's just say a female. How many times have you heard the head cheerleader, per se, say, you know what, nobody ever asked me out because everybody was intimidated? And I'm sure the same thing with the super handsome dude, right? That people are intimidated by that person and might not ask them out, and so they might not get as many dates as we would think in our mind, that everybody's hitting on this person, and so it ends up that nobody hits on this person. I did a poll. Gosh, I wish I remember the number. It was somewhere around 10,000 real estate agents. How many of you have gotten a call from a loan officer prospecting, not about a current deal, or, hey, I'm calling to give you an update? So they weren't doing a deal with a loan officer. Can't remember how we worded the question, but you're not doing a deal with this loan officer, and you just get a random loan officer prospecting you. How many of you have gotten a prospecting call in the last 30 days? And if I remember right, it was 11%. In other words, 89% of all real estate agents, we think they're getting all these phone calls, and these were qualified, by the way. So we had a list of, these were all agents that were all closing, according to one of the services that we use, we're all closing at least 8 buyer sides or more. 89% of them said, haven't had a loan officer call me in 30 days. And so the loan officer sometimes think, yeah, everybody's calling. I don't want to seem desperate. I don't want to beg. I don't want to chase. Dude, 89% is not asking the dude or the lady out. Like, you have this real attractive dude or this real attractive lady, they're not getting asked out to the prom because they all think that everybody's hitting on them all the time. And 89% of the time, nobody's calling them. Like, nobody.
And honestly, I mean, I found it to be no more difficult to get a top producing real estate agent to send business to me than I did to get a lower end one. I mean, in fact, I think it was easier. It was easier.
I agree.
Because there's just more opportunities.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're doing 5 deals a month, they can afford to maybe send you one and see how you do and test you out. Somebody's doing 1 deal a month, they're not going to take that chance.
They can't take the chance because they got their own mortgage payment to make.
Correct.
So I agree 100%. And something else I found. So when I first got in the business, I feel like I had to hide that I didn't know my butt from the hole in the ground, right? I didn't know, like most of us, I guess, or maybe all of us, I didn't know anything. And I felt like I had to hide that I was new. Now that I know what I know, top producers tend to embrace new people because they remember being new. And I know, like, when I get a new loan officer that's brand new in the business, sometimes I'll give them more. I hope this doesn't sound weird, but I'll give them more time than an established veteran, because we like having an impact on somebody in a major way. And somebody brand new to the business, you can really impact their life, Tim, like you did for me. And so I find that if anybody's listening and you're newer in the game, man, I would not hide that fact. I'd wave it on my flag, because you'll find that especially top producers will want to kind of put you under their wing, and they want to help somebody because, number one, they can afford to, and number two, somebody help them. And high producers, not all, but most I find are on the right side of karma.
Yeah, you have to be, how do I want to say this? So, what you're talking about is a willingness to be vulnerable. And
Brother,
and
that's the million
vulnerability
dollar statement right there, my man.
vulnerability is attractive,
Yeah,
and vulnerability is the place where connection occurs.
no question.
So even if you were to just say, hey, I'm new to this business, I've been doing this for 6 months, what I'd like to ask you is if you could tell me the top 2 or 3 things that you look for when partnering with a loan originator, because I'm looking to learn from successful people like you so I could be the best version of myself possible. There's nobody that's going to say, hey, you know what, I don't have time for you. Everybody's gonna be like, wow, like that's
Great question.
refreshing. That's refreshing. Like that's real. Like I like this guy or this gal who comes at me
Great
from that
question.
perspective.
Great question. And let me tell you something. Look, everybody's afraid. Like, dude, I was nervous getting on this call. Um, there's a saying, the difference between fear and courage. So the difference between fear and courage is fear is peeing in your pants. Courage is doing what needs to be done with wet pants on. And so
That's great.
courage, yeah. So
That's
courage
great.
is not the absence of fear. Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Hence, doing what you need to do with wet pants on. And obviously that's figuratively speaking, but it's like, look, everybody feels fear. Everybody feels fear. Everybody feels fear. Every time I get on stage, I feel fear. Every time I pick up a phone call, I feel fear. I just do it anyway. And I find the fear subsides for sure, but it's still, it's just part of life. Like I hope they like me. I hope it's okay. I hope it's going to go okay. So there's always that fear. And you just got to, you just, I think that's a secret is don't wait until you have the confidence. Confidence only happens after you do something. For me, at least, never before. Like if I jump out of an airplane with a parachute, I have zero confidence that that thing's going to open. Right? I mean, I don't know. I have zero knowledge of it. Right? Once it opens, after it opens, I have complete confidence. Right? I have 100% confidence, but only after it opens. And so we don't have the courage before we make the phone calls, before we make the meetings, before we get on stage, before we do a podcast episode. The confidence and the courage only comes after we do something, not before. So don't wait to have the confidence. One of my things is never, ever, ever. If I say soon as this, soon as blank, then I'll blank. Soon as this, then I'll blank. Soon as this happens, then I'll take action. Brother, ain't never going to happen. Right? I have to do it before I'm ready, before I feel confident, before I feel sure of anything.
Yeah. Confidence is also, I love the way you frame that up. It's confidence is a byproduct of exhibiting courage.
Ooh, that's exactly what it is. It's a byproduct of action.
It's the aftermath, but it doesn't come before. And you're absolutely right. I mean, I've spoken, it's been a long time, but I mean, I used to speak a decent amount, and yeah, if I got up there right now, I would be nervous. All nervousness is just energy, and that's just a process of knowing how to channel it,
Yeah.
and taking that energy and transmuting it and giving it out to your audience, and then getting that symbiotic relationship going. Let's as we wind this down, I want to go back into the personal realm with you a little bit, and I owe you some reciprocity. So what is your favorite city in the world? Let's start there.
Oh man. You know, see, I'm gonna break the rule. I've got two.
That's okay. I got a
All
few
right.
too, but I'll accept two.
So number one, I think Paris. I love Amsterdam,
Mhm.
but I think Paris has taken the place. So I love Paris is a great as Amsterdam is. Paris is a great walking city.
Mhm.
Paris is really, which I didn't know this, but Paris is really a whole bunch of villages that grew together. They were separate villages, and then over time, these small villages grew together. So it's kind of like New York City, but on steroids. As far as like, there's a little Italy, a little China, or Chinatown, all the different areas. Paris is the same way. They have so many different cultures within the one city that I love Paris. Just beautiful place, and French are just wonderful, very gracious people. It's been my experience. And then the other is a town that likely nobody will have ever heard of. It's a little town called Pleasant Garden in North Carolina, and I spent some years there growing up. It's just a very special place for me. So nothing special there. And if you drove through the town, Tim, I think they got literally 2 red lights these days. You think, I don't get it, but it's my experiences, my memories there were very as a growing up as a child, very 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 special place.
So
So
that's where when you were a little kid, that's where you lived?
yeah, I lived there from 9 until 17,
Oh,
and it's just
wow.
a very impactful time, and it's
Yeah.
just a special place for me.
Yeah, that's an important time in our life
Oh,
for
huge,
sure. I mean,
huge.
you went
Yeah,
through
very special place.
adolescence and teenage years is
Yeah, very
per-
impact. It never ceases to amaze me that the relationships that we have during that growing part of our life become so embedded and so important that such a like we might look, it's only like a period of like whatever 6 or 7 years, but it's that 6 or 7 years develops, at least for me anyway, developed who I am for the rest of my life, way more than the 50, 50 plus that's been since that time. So
What are the common denominators of top originators in the mortgage business? They're well scripted. They have a system for marketing themselves that generates leads. They manage an effective database and they have strong referral partner relationships. The other common denominator of many great originators is that they have a business and life plan, a roadmap, a guide for them to achieve success, and they have an ally, a coach, who assists them in the successful implementation of that plan. Performance Experts Performance Accelerator private one-on-one, one-year coaching program is now accepting applications. This is my company, and these are my certified coaches that specialize in the mortgage business. Go to www.mortgagecoachingnow.com and click on Get a Coach, or go to the show notes and click on the link that's provided in this episode. Now let's get back to the show. So that leads me to my final question that I like to ask people is that if you could turn the clock back to when you were 18 years old and you could have a conversation with the young Carl White right now, knowing what you know now, knowing him the way you knew him at 18, what advice would you give to him if you had 5 minutes?
Buy Apple and Amazon, of course, right? But and I say that in tongue in cheek. I probably wouldn't tell myself anything, Tim, because I'm afraid of the butterfly effect that would happen. And so, brother, I love my life. I love my friends. I love you. I love my wife. I love my kids. And I'd be so afraid that any one thing, if I bought Apple stock, maybe I'd never met Tim Braheem. And that would have robbed me of a wonderful, wonderful gift. And so I don't even think I'd tell myself, hey, it's going to be okay. Right. Even when it feels like it's going to be okay, because maybe when it's not okay, the growth out of desperation, right? I most of my growth has been desperation, not inspiration. And if I knew it was going to be okay, maybe I wouldn't have dug in as hard. Maybe I would have like, well, it's going to be okay, so I'll just kind of chill here. So I don't think I'd tell me anything because I'm afraid of the. I've just had some wonderful relationships and just a very colorful life. I've been through some hard times, some real hard times, right? But that's part of what makes us who we are. If you want to make my dearest mother here in the summer, I was just thinking about just this morning on my bike ride, my dearest mother, I used to go out in a little old farm field and pick blackberries, and I'd bring them back in, and my mother would make me a blackberry cobbler, right? Wonderful memories,
Oof, boy, that's good stuff, man.
wonderful
That's one of
memories.
my
But
favorite things.
every time I'd go pick those blackberries, blackberries, especially wild ones, have some impressive thorns on them.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I'd come back, not bad, but I'd come back with some scratches and scrapes and a couple little thorns that needed, my dad would pull out with the tweezers after being in the field for a couple hours. But those thorns were worth the blackberry cobbler, and the smell, almost equal to the taste was a smell of it cooking and my mother doing it. And she would help me. I would help her stir and all that. But none of that would have happened if I wasn't okay with a couple of thorns. And so out of those thorns come a very, very, very sweet prize. And so out of our thorns in life come some sweet prizes. So I've learned to embrace those thorns. And it's just part of the way it goes, and it makes us who we are. So I guess my long answer to your short question, and it might sound like a cop out, but it's really not. Brother, I wouldn't tell myself anything. I'd be too afraid to screw what I got up. Does that make sense? So I'd be too
Yeah.
afraid to
Anything
go.
makes sense. Anything that is your authentic answer makes
Yeah,
sense. And I mean,
I'd be too afraid to, But I think if I knew it wasn't going to mess anything up, just that, hey, it's going to be okay. And the most important thing is make a difference. And there's no greater gift than love received and love given. It's by far. And if you got that, man, I know a lot of miserable sons of guns that are very wealthy and very miserable. And but I think you can have both, right? I always think anybody says money can't buy happiness hasn't given enough of it away. And so I think it's okay to do wealthy. Um, but yeah, it's all about the people and the experiences and my experiences with the people. So anyway, that's my I wouldn't change a thing, man. It's been an incredible ride, and I'm very grateful.
it's funny. I was just thinking, I was going to ask you the question, did you used to take your blackberry cobbler a la mode? And then I said, well, that's not an appropriate question when you went into this realm of money and all of that. And then when you tied it up at the end and you said, anybody that hasn't, you know, that says that money can't buy happiness hasn't given enough of it back. It struck me, well, that is the a la mode. I mean, that is the ice cream on top of that blackberry cobbler at the end of the day that makes it even that much better, which is when you can, from a place of gratitude and abundance, help others and touch their lives. So, Carl, what a beautiful couple of hours that we've had together. And I sure am. It's interesting because it's just we've had now what 3 hours together on two Zoom calls over the course of the last month on each other's shows, and I'm really enjoying getting to know you through this medium, and I hope that we have an opportunity to give each other a hug one day. It would be really my honor.
Well, see, this is such a weird thing for me because, brother, I feel like you're my best friend for years, right? And but I know that we've just met figuratively speaking, or not figuratively, literally speaking. But you being a public figure and such a huge iconic influence in the industry that I'm sure you hear that often. But it's a real thing, man. You've changed a lot of lives and really helped out a lot of people. Both your direct line and then the ripple effect going forward. So you're an awesome dude, man. Thanks for being you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you. I know that it's almost 5 o'clock in Florida, which means that your wife has a good vegetarian meal waiting for you here. I hope that you have a great dinner tonight, and we got to get you to bed in a few hours because 3 o'clock in the morning comes pretty early.
Yeah, it's time to wind down. I'm getting ready. Believe it or not, the high point of my afternoon here is I put my little hairless cats in a baby carriage that's got that closes, and I walk around the block a couple of times. And
Cool.
they say that all of my decisions have led me to this exact moment. And I just want to say publicly, it's a real sad state of affairs when I'm out walking a cat around in a cat carriage around my neighborhood and liking it
No, not for
I'm
me. It isn't, because
concerned.
I'm a cat person. So I actually, this is something like, I know that I get chastised for this, but I'm more of a cat person than a dog person for sure.
Same here.
So the fact that you have two cats means in my mind that you're a cool guy. So
Yeah.
go enjoy that walk with them.
Thank you, my brother.
Okay, pal. Thank you.